Hello and welcome to Think Up. I'm Debonitas. We are going to discuss the fundamental ideas and concepts of worker communism and the fundamental ideas of the Worker Communist Party of Iran. I've invited Hamid Taqvaee, the leader of the Worker Communist Party of Iran, to discuss this. Hamid, let's talk about some very basic concepts and ideas. What is socialism? What is communism? How are they different? And what is worker communism?
Yeah, as far as the difference between communism and socialism are concerned, usually they are used in Marxist literature or leftist literature as two interchangeable words. Most of the time they mean the same thing when they talk about socialism or communism. But if you go deeper, theoretically, you want to see why then we have two different terms, then you find out that there are differences. First of all, the socialism is considered as a lower phase or transitional phase of communism. After a revolution against, theoretically, after a revolution against capitalism, when you want to get rid of exploitation or class society or whatever that are ideals of communism, you have to go through a transitional period. It's done step by step. So that's the first phase. In socialism, you're supposed to have still a state, and you have a class struggle between still working class and capitalist class, with the difference that working class is in power now, and the bourgeoisie or capitalist class resists. So they change the seats. And then you are trying to implement socialism economically. That's the first phase of you're going toward your goal. And the second phase is when there is no classes anymore. So there is no class struggle as such. There is no even state as a political entity. There is a state, but as a manager of the society, just to organize the society, not as a political force. So those are basic differences. You can divide those differences in economical terms. Economically, what is the difference? Politically, what's the difference? Socially, what's the difference between socialism and communism? Economically, there's a famous quotation of Marx that says, in socialism, from each person or from each citizen, according to her or his ability, to everyone according to their work. In communism, you have to everyone according to their needs. Meaning, in the socialist phase, economically, first everybody should work. A productive work. Everybody should work. And then you return or you give everybody according to what they did, according to their work. That's the first phase. In the second phase, it doesn't matter what you do. You just take part in creating something, but you have to be able to satisfy your needs. So to everybody according to their needs. That's a very abstract way of saying the difference economically between socialism and communism phases of the society. Politically, the difference I already mentioned. The difference is that in socialism, you still have state as a political entity because there is still resistance. Class struggle is still there, with the difference that the government is in the hands of working class and the opposition is a capitalist or bourgeoisie or capitalist class. But still there is a class struggle, and you have state as a political entity, as a political body. But in communism, class struggle is no more. You abolish that, as well as exploitation is abolished, and differences between classes and the very existence of classes abolished. Everybody is equal in every term of every meaning of the term. Politically, economically, socially, culturally, everybody is equal. So there is no classes. And there is no state as a political force anymore. There is state as manager of the society. So that's the political difference. And socially, the difference is that even in communism, even culturally, you cannot see any differences, say, that we in existing society we have between, not only between rich and poor, but between men and women, or minorities and majorities, or different religions, or different cultures, or different ethnic groups, or whatever that we have today. Socially, there is not such a thing in communist society. It's an ideal society that everybody, in the true meaning of the word, is totally equal with each other. Everybody is equal. And but in socialism, you still, of course, you have those challenges. Culturally, you have those challenges. Socially, you still, the struggle hasn't finished. It's still going on. With the difference that working class has upper hand in socialism. So you can use the government as a tool, state as a tool, to go toward abolishing all of those differences, all of those class differences, religious differences, and so on and so forth.
So you want to make everybody the same?
Or equal, not the same. It's different. Yeah, I know. Usually people say that you communists want to make everybody the same. People are different. What about individuals? Of course, there are individual people have different needs. They have different cultures even. They have different preferences in their life. They have different goals in their life. They have different lifestyles. We are not against differences. We are against inequality. There are two different things. When we say everybody is equal, meaning by law, in the eye of the society, everybody has got the same right. Everybody should be able to do whatever they want, to create or to have any type of lifestyle, and society should take care of it. That everybody is equal. But it doesn't mean that everybody has the same need. As I said, suppose in a communist society, already we have done with the differences, and the society says to everyone as their needs, as I said. Okay, the needs are different. You might have a different type of clothes, different type of house, different type of car. You might not need a car at all. Maybe you want a bicycle, or maybe you want two cars, or whatever. So what you need, you have to be able to get it from the society. Independent of what you do. You might be working in this industry or that industry, or be even an artist, or being be a writer or whatever. So you do something, you contribute to society somehow, and then you have needs. Needs are not the same. The thing is that your own individual needs should be satisfied, whatever your need is. So we are not for making the people the same. We are for making people equal in eyes of the society and by law.
But we are already equal by law anyway. Like if you have a Western democracy, and we're all equal already.
No, they are not. They are not equal by law. It depends what you mean by equality. Politically, yeah, on paper even, still in people, they are equal. But we know that men and women are not equal, even in the most advanced Western societies. We know that practically they are not. Even wages are not equal still in the USA, you know. So that's the one thing. The other thing, even if on paper everybody is equal, if you're born in a working class, you are not equal with somebody who's born in capitalist class. Suppose the children of Bill Gates, they're born there, and you are a working class family. You men and women, mother and father work 8 hours a day, and the child goes to the high school and cannot afford to go to the college, go to the to work, find a work somehow. How come they are equal?
Well, everybody has opportunities, I say. Everybody has the same opportunity.
No. When you are born, you already have advantages. If I'm born in Bill Gates' family, or Rockefeller families, or those billionaires or millionaires, I can have the best school. I can have the best life as a child. Before I grown up, I go to society. When I go to society, when my father dies, I inherit millions of dollars. without doing anything. I don't need to do anything. You know, I have whatever my family has. I inherit them. Usually they say no. Rich people are more able to do things. They are talented, and that's garbage. No, you can be the most talented working class child and still have to work 8 hours a day to the end of your life without having many opportunities that the other guy who was born in capitalist class has already when they born. You know, it's like a running competition in Olympics, say, and you run alongside with the others, but the other guy is 100 meters ahead of you already. Then you start. Of course you lose. Doesn't matter how good you run. He's got 1 meter to the goal. You have 100 meters to the goal. You know what I mean? So that's a myth that in class society everybody is equal. Everybody is not equal. And when economically you are not equal, it means culturally you are not. It means that your lifestyle is much worse. It means in any aspect, socially. I mean, it's not only that, okay, you cannot say that in capitalist society everybody is just economically not equal, but otherwise they're equal. No. If economically you are not, otherwise you are not either. Because it's the basic thing. You know what I mean? If I have to work 8 hours a day, I can have those pleasures that the other guys has. I don't have that free time that the other guys has. I cannot go around and see many different countries, go as a tourist. The other guys can do that. I cannot play that game that I need. He go or she can go and play golf 8 hours a day and can afford it. I cannot. So when you are in different classes, everything is different. It's not economically even. Everything is different. So people in real life, in society, are not equal. Usually they say that by law or in the eyes of law, everybody is equal. But law is on the paper. In real life, you are not. And the thing is that there is a myth, as you said, there is a culture in those sort of class society says, okay, you deserve it. Everybody deserves the life that they have. That's wrong. It's not the case. Because when I was born, I born in a very different situation that you are born in different classes. So if we are born in different classes, from the very beginning, from the first day of life, we have different way of living. You born in a the best hospital, say, in the world. I was born in a room in that shanty town, in say around New York, even in France, in everywhere. Even when we were born, we are not equal from that very beginning. So you're
talking about these aspirations under communism, that everybody should have sort of the same possibilities, their needs should be covered.
Same opportunity, same possibility.
Okay, but
same rights.
We did have that. We had communism in Russia, in the Eastern Bloc, communism in Cuba, and we still have it in China. And I would not say that we could honestly say that any of these communist systems have given any of that to the people.
No, of course not.
So what happened there?
No, of course not.
That's communism.
That's why we have that's why we are use the term worker communism to differentiate between what we say, what is our goal, what is our ideals, and what happened in those countries. The thing is that usually they say that, okay, that thing happened in China or in Russian bloc or in the other countries that have that experience, because they didn't understand well what Marx says. Marxists say that this way, defend Marxism, that they didn't understand very well what they should do, as if there is something wrong with the understanding, with their knowledge. And people who are opposed to communism, they say the other way. They say that's what Marxism is. That's what communism is. We don't care what is in the book. What happens in the real life, the experience that we see Soviet Union or Eastern Bloc that we already see in China or in Vietnam or any other country that claims they're communism. It's not good at all. Even in many aspects, it's worse. So one group used that experience to attack the whole Marxism. The other group says, no, that's not real Marxism. That's not real communism. Why? Because they didn't go, they didn't follow, they didn't understand, they didn't interpret well what Marx says. My explanation is neither of them. I don't think that what happens in China and Russia and so forth and so on is a real communism. Not because they didn't understand, because they belong to other movements. You know, you have, before you go to the book, you have to pick up any ism, socialism, capitalism, social democracy, liberalism, whatever, racism. Before going to those system of thinking, in your experience, you have ideals, you have goals, you have some sort of strategies. Even if you don't articulate, still every person has got some sort of philosophy of life. You're, say, for racists, say for white people in USA, the race is the main thing, and they're against black people. Before going to any book, because of the way that they live, because of their experience, because of the culture that inherit from their parents maybe, or whatever, we don't go to reasons now, they have a racist goal. They think that they are better than the other races. In USA, white people are better than black people, concretely. That's what they think. And then they go and be, say, go to a Ku Klux Klan, or they have their own groups or political activity. But their goal is that. They think this way. They think they are better. Now, this, of course, no communism starts with racism. They are opposite. But that example shows that before going to any ism, it means what you care for. What is your goal in your social life, social activity, political activity? What's your ideals? In the whole 20th century, we had different revolutions under the name of communism. We have October Revolution, we have a revolution in China, we have a revolution in Cuba, we have in Vietnam, and so on and so forth. Our argument is those revolutions are based on different movements, meaning movements are taking shape around ideals, around goals. The movement, say, in China was fighting the foreign imperialist countries like USA or at the time France and those countries, and so being independent. And that one goal. The other goal was against the feudalist mode of production, the aristocracy, and so on and so forth. So they wanted to make China a very powerful country like industrial West, and at the same time get rid of the foreign powers that they're exploiting their country, like USA or France or the other countries. In Vietnam, we have the same situation. In Cuba, you had the same situation. In none of those countries, capitalism was not the way of that they produce. They have different formation. They are landowners, and then they have peasants, and that was the main mode of production in those countries. So they were against the power of the landowners, the power of feudals, and they were connected or supported by the foreign countries. So they were the same revolution against both of them. In China, we have the situation. In Cuba, it was against the influence of USA, against USA imperialism. In Vietnam, the same thing. In Russia, Russia was not capitalist country as such. In the Russia before 1905 revolution, we had again the mode of production was feudalism based on landowners and peasants and that sort of thing. So there were two movements at the same time there. One movement was presented by Bolshevism, by Lenin, that wants socialism, wanted to get rid of the capitalism. The other movement was to get rid of Tayserism and go toward the, again, industrial advanced capitalism like Western Europe, because Russia was at the last in the list of industrial countries. Russia was at the end. So they wanted to make Russia a powerful state, a powerful country like USA, like England, like Western Europe. And they did it. It happened, right? Russia was a superpower. But it has nothing to do with the socialist movement. Those two movements, after the October Revolution, the movement that represented the industrial country, they wanted to have a powerful industrial country, they had the upper hand. And so we had Stalinism and we have the rest. In China, there was only that movement against imperialism and against feudalism. In Vietnam was against imperialism. In Cuba was against imperialism. So we think that when we analyze those experiences, we see that those movements that under the name of communism had those revolutions had nothing to do with the getting rid of capitalism. They were against some other sort of things. And ideally, say people like Stalin, people like Mao, people like Ho Chi Minh, people like those leaders of those revolutions, they have different ideals. They wanted to have an industrial country, independent country, powerful country. They didn't want a society with no classes, everybody equal. Maybe they say when they were talking, but actually, practically, their goal was the goal of their movement, having a powerful China, having industrial China, having a industrial Russia, having a superpower. That they succeeded in that in Russia and in China even. China is a very important and very powerful economical force in the world now. So those were the ideals. So the question, go back to what I said about the movements, the question is, those people who call themselves communism, what is their ideals? When in private you talk to them, what is their passion? You know, for what sort of things they cry, or they get happy, or they get angry, for what? You know what I mean? We had leftists in Iran, they were against Shah. Why? Because the Shah was, they said, is a puppet of USA. And so we want to get rid of USA. So, and the Shah is dictator because he obeys, is under the order of USA. And so we want to, our fight against dictatorship is our fight against USA. And when we get rid of USA, then everything's going to be okay. So, but we as a communists that were starting at that time, say 41 years ago, we said, no, dictatorship is not because of USA. Dictatorship is a capitalist class in Iran. They have to be dictator, even much worse than any other dictator in the other countries, because they want to have profit. And in order to compete with the advanced countries like England, like Western Europe, you have to exploit your workers much more than the other countries because your means of production, your industry is not that advanced. That was our explanation. And we said the dictatorship of Shah is not because he's dependent on the USA, because he wants to represent the capitalist class. And no matter what, even if those connections are completely getting rid of, still you have that sort of dictatorship. And now we have the proof. After 4 decades of Islamic Republic, you know, Islamic Republic is very independent. It's the most independent country in the world, maybe. It's against US, against Western Europe, against the West, relies on our own culture, our own religion, own, and still we have the worst dictatorship that we've ever had in Iran. So now in experience, we see that we were right. That dictatorship had nothing to do with the relation with USA. Of course, the USA makes the situation worse, as they do today with the economical sanction. But the main reason is not that. The main reason is the government in Iran, which represents the whole capitalist class in Iran. So that's our explanation that why we have that sort of communism. You might ask why they have to say they call themselves communism. If you had French Revolution against feudalism, they didn't call themselves communism, they were liberals. Why they don't go with liberalism? Because after the October Revolution especially, that was inspiring. That was in the political atmosphere, in the paradigm of the world at, say, after 1917, after Russian Revolution, communism was very popular. Even many, in Iran, we have many poets that they have, they praise the Leninism and Bolshevism without being communism. So the first, after the 1917 revolution in Russia, not only workers in the world, all the masses of people, especially in third world countries, and even in Western Europe, they look at Russia as a very important and very advanced experience that they can implement it in their own countries. And that's why any revolutionary calls himself communist. So, even Bolsheviks. Every revolutionary in the world, in China, in Iran, in everywhere, call themselves leftist or communist or socialist because they had that revolution in Russia. That was the reason that people don't go anymore to say Walter or Rousseau or those big thinkers of French Revolution. They go to the Marx and Engels and Lenin because that was hot. That was the main discourse on that time.
So how is, you said at the beginning, you said worker communism. That's why we have worker communism, because you explained now what the communism was, or the systems under communism, that they weren't really communist. So what is worker communism then? And how do you think, or why do you think worker communism would be any different from the other communism?
Look, first, socially, we think that worker communism is a social movement before again going to any book. It exists even before Marx. I mean, it's based on protests of working class, industrial work, the modern working class of after 18th century, 17th, 18th century. That protest is real, is there. You don't need a book. You know, revolution or protest or struggle doesn't start with the book. Books or theories just theorize that, just is the implementation or is a reaction to real events, what's happening. So we had a working class from the Paris Commune, right after the French Revolution. We had a working class protest against the situation. They didn't want that sort of life. They didn't want to be exploited. So they wanted to be equal with the other people. So that movement is the movement that we call it a communist movement. Look, the worker communism is just, we want to say that we are different than communism because communism is identified with Russia, with China, with those experiences. We just add the word worker. But theoretically, in theory, in our analysis of the word, in the way we think, is Marx communism, is the real communism. Communism before those sort of distortions that we had in 20th century, right? So worker communism as a theory is nothing but Marxism in 20th and 21st century. Marxism today, we call it worker communism. But in the society, it really is a real movement that doesn't start even with the Marx. It's always there. As far as you have capitalism, you have communist movement as well to challenge it. Because that protest is real. People are not happy. People, even in the West, we had 99% against 1% just 15 years ago. And we had so many revolutions in the world. Based of those revolutions in the new era, in the capitalist era, is the base is the protest of working class against the whole society, against the capitalist mode of production, against exploitation, against the private ownership of the means of production, against those. It doesn't mean that every worker talks like me, but in real life they do the thing maybe they cannot elaborate, but they are fighting the capitalist dominance. Politically, economically, culturally, they are against that. So that movement is real. So that's one difference of worker communism with the other communism. Those other communism basically start with the books. And they say if something went wrong because you didn't understand well what Marx says, because something wrong with your understanding, your knowledge is not correct. It's not the way that we explain the history. We say that real benefits, real goals, real ideals are in work here. If ideally, if mentally, if strategically, you're for independence, even if you read the whole Marx, if your passion is that, your heart is or heartbeat is for that, then of course you interpret Marxism in a way that go to independent country, as we had many leftist groups in third world countries were like that. They said the reason of our misery, our problems, our influence of West, influence of Western government, even Western culture. We want to get rid of them. We want to go back to our own culture, to our own ideals, to our own whatever. And so those people, it's not because they didn't understand Marx well or they didn't read the whole Marx. Maybe they did, and they know the Marxism better than anybody else. But still, it didn't change their ideals, their goals, their philosophy of life, the image that they had of freedom, of being an equal society or good society. Freedom means getting rid of the Western influence, you know, and being a good society, being an independent society. Go back to your own history. Go to your parents and parents of parents, and go back 200, maybe 2,000 years back, and then start from there. The experience that happened in ex-Yugoslavia was exactly that. So many ethnic groups, they found their own history all of a sudden. They found out that from several hundred years ago, Czech was different from Slovak. So now we have Czech country, you have Slovak country. Now we have Montenegro, you are Serb, you are Croat, you are what, you are this, you are that. So this way, many of them may call them Marxist or communist. But what their passion is, what their ideal is their own ethnicity, you know. So they create a country around that in this ethnicity, and we have, I don't know, 5, 6 countries out of Yugoslavia now, or we have Czech and Slovak out of Czechoslovakia, and that sort of thing. So when we go back now to the experience of what happened in real world, those things that we said, real communism that exists, doesn't matter what is in the book. In real life, that's the communism. We say that the communism that socially exists is worker communism. Whatever you say, whatever your ideal is, as a racist, as an independent a person who wants independent, as a people who interpret freedom as getting rid of the foreign country, whatever you say, whatever you do, there is still a movement there that workers are involved in, and they're against capitalism because of their real experience. The worker doesn't care who's the owner of the capital. Is it Iranian, Arab, American, French, whatever. I'm exploited. I had to work 8 hours a day, and me and my partner, my husband or my wife, both of them are working, and still we don't meet the ends. We have so many needs that we can satisfy in this world. But we know we work and we die, and we never say go around the world for 2 weeks. My employee goes every weekend, goes to whatever they want. So that experience is real. So the movement is real. Worker communism is the elaborating of that movement. It's the voice of that movement. It's representative of that movement. We might uprise and be defeated again and again, but as far as that difference is, as far as classes are there, as far as there are that experience, that feeling that working people have, there is a worker communism, and there is a worker communism party, or society needs that. And we are a worker communist party of Iran based on that very basic needs of working people. No matter who interprets communism how, no matter what, we are representing working class who want to get rid of exploitation, who want to get rid of class differences, who want to get rid of the domination of religion as we have in Iran, domination of nationalism as we have in every other country in the world, domination of ethnicity groups as we have in the previous Yugoslavia, still in very African countries. We want to get rid of all of them. And the movement of working class is against all of them because basically, really, they don't benefit from those differences. The other way, they have every interest of getting rid of those differences. So equality and freedom for working class is not only an ideal, it's a basic necessity of their real life. They need freedom. They need to get rid of religion. They need to get rid of nationalism, because based on nationalism and religion, they just defeated the working class again and again and again, always under those banners. The working class says, no, I don't believe on those banners. I don't need those banners. I'm against those banners because I want to get free. And for working class, getting free, meaning the whole society should be freed. Otherwise, I cannot. Working class knows that. Either working class free everybody, those 99%, or himself or herself cannot be freed. So those are our ideals. Those are our passion. Those are our struggle. Those what we call the heart of communism. I'm not talking about the theory. I'm not talking about the brain, the mentality of communism. I'm talking of the feeling of the heart of the communism as the base of working communist party of Iran. And that's the base of working communism, as the base of communism as the way that Marx says it, I think. Or big revolutionaries like Lenin says it. That's what we say, that working communism is different. Before anything else, passionately is different. Ideally is different. Its heart is different. And then comes the theory. Then comes what we believe in, our position towards this, toward that, our tactics, our strategy, the way our works, what the relation between our party, what's the relation of our party with the governments. All of them are based on that passion, based on that feeling of freedom, getting rid of any type of exploitation, any type of discrimination, any type of difference, politically, economically, socially, culturally, all over the world. That's my ideal. That's the ideal of working class, even if they don't know it yet. Even if they call themselves, even if they are against communism based on what experience we had in Russia or anywhere else. But when you go to their home and talk with them the way that I'm talking about the passion, about the heart of communism, they say they agree. They are saying the same thing. They don't know what the name is. They don't care about ism. They are for that. They are for what your goal is and what your ideal is. Maybe never be member of my party because they think that in society communism is still a bad label. Maybe, but they are with you with their heart. They are with you because they are representing them. They are representing the way that they are against what they suffer from, and they are for what they are dreaming of. That's why our party is the party of working people, and not only working class, the party of 99% of the people of the world who want to get rid of the exploitation, who want to get rid of the dominance of the capitalism everywhere in the world.
But what do you make, for example, you said it's a social movement, but at the same time, maybe it's not in many people's consciousness at the moment. Let's say it like this. You have a woman, she works as a secretary somewhere in Paris or London. She earns well, she can go on holiday. She might even own her flat or rent. She has no problems as such. She would say, I live in a Western democracy. I have my freedom. I have enough money. I don't have a problem.
Okay, people who don't have problem, then they don't have problem. But most of the people don't think like that. Say when you have a disaster in society, say you're living in USA, you're in England with that sort of lifestyle. You are happy, you have a good work, you're a secretary or somewhere, or you have your vacations, you have everything. Then all of a sudden, you have a fire in your city. You have a flood in your city. You have an earthquake in the city. You see on the television, hundreds of people are suffering. You say, oh, well, I don't care. Maybe you say that. If you say that, you are 1% maybe of the people. But most of the people, they care. I mean, people, they don't think just about what their life is. They think about everybody else as well, about human being suffering. That's why we have so many donations, so many helping other people, even in Africa, let alone in your own city. But of course, if you think that helping other people means I have to abandon my lifestyle, my situation getting worse, maybe you don't care. You know what I mean? But if you think that I can keep the way my life is and improve everybody else's life, then you are for it, right? You don't have anything about happiness of other people as far as your happiness is still there. So socialism wants to make everybody happy. I don't want to to make your situation worse in order to get somebody else's better. That's why they said in Cold War propaganda that communism makes you poor for getting from you like Robin Hood, getting from you, giving to the poor people. No, we are not Robin Hood. We want to make everybody's life better. We think that with especially with our technology that we have today, with those, the fourth revolution of electronic revolution, computer revolution with robots and everything, that just improved the production of any sort of commodity 10 times better. So we have enough wealth to make everybody happy. What happens after that last revolution in the in computerizing the production in factories? What happens? Richer get much more richer. Rich people get much more richer. Poor people more poorer. That's what happened. Why is that? So we have enough wealth. Enough wealth is created in the world that everybody have a very much better life than we have right now. Everybody. So that's one point. If any individual that thinks, if they are happy with their life, they think that they're not gonna make my situation worse there for you. Okay, I have nothing against everybody else be happy. Not only I don't have anything against, I'd be much more happier if I see that there is no miserable life in my society, in my country, in all over the world. So worker communism is not for making some people situation worse, some people better. Look, when you are against class struggle, when you want to go to a society with no classes, meaning we are not only for one class, we are for classless society. We are not for working class to the end. If we keep working class, we didn't get our goal. Our goal is having no classes. So as soon as I get the political power, say Working Communist Party of Iran, get the power in Iran, we don't talk about classes as such anymore. We are talking about people, citizens, equality, you know. As you say, you know, feminists in culture, they say, culturally don't talk about women as a weaker gender, right? Talk about them equal. In literature, in cinema, in films, in news, everywhere, equal, right? The same way, when we get the power in Iran, we talk about everybody as equal. We are not only for working class or against bourgeois who was not working class, now we get a revenge. Or petty bourgeoisie like that secretary, oh, you had a good life, oh, you are something wrong with you, you have to be like workers. The same thing that they did in China, say in Cultural Revolution, they did something. We are not doing that at all. That's a big difference between worker communism and the other movements communism. Our movement, working class movement communism, that we call working communism, is looking at the society as equal people, everybody. We don't want to only free working class. We want to do that, but in order to do that, you have to free the whole society. If you want to end the class differences, when you get to power, you don't even shouldn't talk about classes anymore. You know what I mean? When you get the power, you have to talk about humanity, about equality of everybody. You have to look at everyone as equal person. Of course, there are those 1% that they lose their advantages. Of course they lose. Of course they want maybe private jets, many villas all over the world, many, I don't know, health, wealth that you cannot even imagine. Of course they lose that, but it's just 1%. And they're going to resist. Of course they're going to resist. And that's why I go back to the first phase, transitional phase. We have a resistance. We have a working class state. We have upper hand, and we have that 1% that resists. But I think that it's only transitional. It's temporary. Maybe we cannot do it for what are the generation of multi-billionaires that they live in this situation, but their children, the second generation, the third generation, when they born in that sort of society, they don't have that resistance anymore, because they shouldn't have any problem from the beginning. I mean, culturally they are free, they can satisfy their needs, they have any opportunity to show themselves, to be creative, or whatever. You are an artist, you are a worker, you are a writer, you are whatever. If you live the life that you want and you are happy, then that resistance ends. But whatever it is, from the very first phase, as soon as we get the power, we talk about people as equal citizens, and we try to have laws and to treat people as equal as well, not only in propaganda, not only in discourse, even in the real life. So that's the only way that you can get rid of the class society.
But tell me, a lot of questions, of course, coming up now. How would you want to actually be able to change from capitalism, dictatorship, to socialism, and then to communism? Because, as you said, it is, you have the billionaires, you have the capitalist class, which are, to my mind, very closely linked to the government. It's all the same interest group, let's say. So what you're going to do to actually make that step towards socialism? And then later on we can talk about what would the socialist country or a place look like. But because, for example, you have in the US now, this is socialist Democrats, Bernie Sanders and all of them. So they are accused of being communists already, and there's a lot of propaganda going on. So, for example, you're vying for power in Iran. How would you want to be able to go from the religious dictatorship, a capitalist system as well, and you say, okay, we're going to have socialism in the future? How are you going to do that?
Oh yeah, look, don't forget, if we are in power, it means we had a revolution already, right? When you have a revolution, it means you get rid of those ayatollahs. People are against those. I mean, the most anti-religion, the most atheist, the most secular society is Iranian society. The most religious, the most reactionary government is, of course, Islamic Republic. So there's a big difference. Already, there are in two different poles. We have people who want to get rid of the, not only of ayatollahs and mullahs, to get rid of the dominance of religion, their even private life. You know, we have laws in Iran that goes in bed what you should do, what you shouldn't. And we have the police that take care of that in Iran. Or boyfriend, girlfriend, you cannot be any friend. You cannot be, even worse than that, you cannot be a homosexual. The punishment is execution. You have to die if you are homosexual. So that's why people are against all of those. And we had a revolution. And because we are in the power, it means that the revolution people choose us. People followed us in the revolution. We organized the revolution. So that's our assets. That's our main power point. Because of that revolution, the religious already in the corner. The society got rid of that. In Iran, because we have the religious government. Against Shah revolution, we didn't have that thing, because at that time religion was not in power. Now it is, and we get rid of that. So still people might believe in God or in Islam or whatever, but they're personal beliefs. Socially, politically, in schools, that everywhere is religion now, there is no trace of them. People, society get rid of that. Even we don't need to say that we get rid of religion. Revolution already did that. And then revolution already attacked the base of dictatorship, like Sepah, Basij, those special guards that are for depression, for against people, using them for like prisons, like all of the execution. We are against execution, against capital punishment. It is by law, it is forbidden from the very beginning when we go to power. Or like equality of men and women in any aspect are equal from the very beginning, from the first day. That's the order of the revolution, or order of Communist Party of Iran that takes the power and have and declares laws. So 90% of those goals that are already done. Of course, if you go to the power by coup, you don't have that situation. It's very hard then. Then your question is there. If somehow our party get to the power, say by helicopter from the sky, somehow, I don't know, somehow, then of course I have a lot of problem. But it's not the case. It never happens. The only chance that we get to the power is based on the uprising, a mass uprising of people against the status quo, not only against the government, against the system. In their slogans already you see, people 5 months ago, when they attacked, when they protest against the price of oil, price of gasoline that tripled in one night, people went to the street, and we had a protest in more than 150 cities. But it was not only that slogan. The main slogan was against the government. People attacked banks as a symbols of capitalism. People attacked the religious centers. People attacked ayatollahs. People attacked the special guard, that was the force that government used against the protests. So it means that when you have that revolution, already the system is attacked, not only the government. Other ideals are in the street if revolution happened. Even in 57, that there was not a party like our party, there was no worker-communist party at that revolution 40 years ago. We had councils everywhere. Not only workers, people interpret freedom not as parliament anymore, as our own councils, like Soviets. Everywhere we had councils in the factories, in the worker movement, in universities, even in different parts of government, in bureaucracy, even in the army, we had councils. Now, of course, Islamic Republic attacked them, but what I mean is because of that. Because of the experience in the 97 revolution, councils were everywhere. That's our starting point in this revolution as well. What we do after that revolution that already destroyed a lot of the power bases of the capitalist class, we keep in the streets the councils. We don't say, okay, revolution is done, go home, now bureaucracy is in effect. We never do that. We say people who organize themselves in the revolution as councils or whatever the name they might put on that, those are based on our new government. In our Better World, the program of our party, we define the structure of government based on people's councils everywhere. in the factories, in the universities, everywhere, in the neighborhoods. Those people organized as councils are base of our government. We don't have parliament as such. We don't have a bureaucracy. We don't have political elites. We have people already organized, the whole society organized as different parts of government. So that's a big difference. That's the way that we can go and abolish the whole power of capitalist class.
And how would you then? So you're saying, so these people's councils, they sort of form the basis of
government,
of government, and then you might have some representatives, whatever. So, and then how would you function? How would you create? I wanted to say wealth now, but that's of course. But how do you create things when you have to have resources?
The same way that we create wealth already. How you think that in, say, USA, let alone Iran, let's go to that sort of country, or England, how the wealth is created? By people who go to factories and work, right? Otherwise, you don't have those clothes, you don't have that chair, you don't have anything. Those are created something. Somebody did that. Somebody made them. Who's that somebody? Working class. The same way. But the difference that everybody is working now. Everybody is a worker. We don't have a class as such. If you are a member of society, you have somehow contributed to creating that table, that desk, that chair, that computer, that car. So when you look at the physical way, the real objective wealth in the world, everything is created in a factory by some worker. Everything, right? So it's still there. So the base of wealth in capital society is working class. The class that has no representative, no actual representative, it's not represented in the politics, in the government, in the power. The power is based on, is in the hands of capitalists. As the Occupied movement said 15 years ago, that says that in USA, they said that the Congress is yours, the army is yours, the Wall Street is yours, and we have nothing. You control everything. Army, government, Congress, Wall Street, symbolically. Those represents the power. You don't see ordinary people in, not only working class, you don't see even middle class. You don't see ordinary people in those structure of power. Election after election, they just change seats, but they're the same bunch of people, the same political elite, that most of them are billionaires, or you have very close relations with billionaires. They don't create the wealth. They don't do that. They just own the wealth. Wealth is created by somebody else in USA, which is called working class. And they don't call it working class. They say, that's interesting. In the literature, if you listen to politicians in USA, they talk about middle class, upper class. There is no lower class, as if it doesn't exist. If somebody wants to be very, very progressive, they talk about middle class. If I get elected, we do this, we do that for middle class. What about the lower class? As if it doesn't exist. Exactly like ancient Rome, that the slaves, they even didn't mention them. The slaves were never, nowhere. When they talk in Rome Congress about equality, they were equality about people who own slaves, not slaves themselves. Almost the same situation in politics in USA. Middle class, upper class, and nothing else. They are not mentioned even working class. But now there is a difference with Sanders. They are talking about working class and workers. But 99% of USA literature or politicians, when they talk, when they make speech, when they explain their goals, their policies, they don't go further than middle class. And if you are for middle class, you are very progressive. But of course, even middle class doesn't create much. Middle class is working the paperwork most of the time, right? It's middle class. Working class is those blue-collar people who go to the factory, who go to the production line, and they don't even mention in their say, TV debates. They don't even mention them. The same way that in the Senate of Rome, they were mentioned slaves. So this, the question that what happens to the creating of wealth, this question will be the other way. What happens to the people who don't create anything and have everything?
What happens to them?
What to them? Okay, as I said, to them, we don't want to deprive anybody from their happiness. But if your happiness is having more than one car, having 3-4 private jets, going to resorts and playing golf and having everything, no, I'm sorry, that is not going to happen. So, of course, then that's we are talking about less than 1%. Even in USA, Sanders tells you the statistics, it's less than 1% that have that sort of lifestyles. That lifestyles is not tolerated. Not because we want to say have revenge or arrest you and put you in the prison. No, we don't do that. You can have a very happy life, a normal life like anybody else. You have your every basic needs, your home, your clothes, your car, means of transportation, your vacation time, your leisure, your, I don't know, whatever you want, you have like everybody else. So we don't deprive anybody from whatever is standard for having a good life, a creative life. You know, what part of good life is being creative? You know, that thing is always not taken into calculation. It's not on the table to talk about. The bourgeois class, maybe they don't think this way, but they are just used. They are just used. They don't contribute. They don't do anything positive. And when I think if they do, at least the second generation, when they do that, they find out that the real happiness is somewhere else. It's not own, having more, being more happy. You know, when you think about that, we talk about of course, the means of production, land and factories. It shouldn't be private. The society owns them, if you want to use the word own. But society manages them. Society uses them for the benefit of the whole society. But even for the private things that we own, you know, me and you, when you rise up in a class society, you think that having more is having a better life. Instead of using, you use having. I have that house. I have that car. Suppose you go out of your home, there are cars that are not locked. Everybody has a key. You can use a car, go to whatever you want, park it and go, and somebody else comes and take that car, go somewhere else. Suppose that system, they do it with bicycles in some countries, right? Suppose we do it that car. Then do you need to have a car, actually? You don't need. Having a car, having more, there are two reasons in the class society. One, you don't know what happens when you get old, you know. You want to have something extra, something even for your children, because you don't know your children be as fortunate as you. You don't know what happened to them. Something for, say, natural disasters, something happens. So having more, meaning being more confident that I have a reliable life for me and my children. But if you know that in society everybody has got a good life, and nobody is going to deprive your children from whatever you have already, and you think that, okay, the car is there, I go and use it and leave it, and then tomorrow I go on the car, or I want to go to vacation, I tell whoever I work for that I go to vacation, say, okay, go to vacation and go to any vacation that I like. If my needs are satisfied and I know that the system works this way, why then having it that important? Doesn't make sense. You know, I think the future people in a communist society will look at our society and laugh. Look at those people. They thought having is being happy. they've worked for having more, possess more, ownership. That was the basic goal, basic ideal of everybody from the very beginning. Be a bank account and make sure that there's more and more money in it, because you don't know when you are 70 years old, 80 years old, what happens to you or to your family, right? So having more, meaning having more car, better clothes, better lifestyle, go and see around the world, having better quality in life and everything. But if you just cut that connection between having and happiness, then you don't need having anymore. You know what I mean? So culture is a very big thing. And I think that bourgeois class, even those 1%, as a human being, they don't have a good life. Maybe they don't know. Maybe they are happy, and they are happy. And of course, most of them are, some of them at least, we know that they are not happy. They have drugs. They have for example, those billionaires in movie industry. When you talk to them, they say they have so many problems. But to ignore that even, by not being creative, there is a potential in you that never realized in your life, because you own. Because I was born in Rockefeller or in Bill Gates' family, I never did anything positive in my life, and I had everything, and I think that's a very good lifestyle, but it is not, because you didn't see the alternative. You didn't have any chance to go alternative. You didn't in the society it was a norm. In the society the norm was having more and more, and you have more, you are more respect, you are more important, so you have everything by having more. So you think that that's the human being life, but human being life, look, working is part of happiness. That's my point. If working is not a must, you have to work in order to have bread on your table, then working would be a advantage. Working would be a way to realize your potentials. Be happy. You know, when I create something and I need that something is used by other people who need it, then I'm happy. I'm creative. It's part of being a human being. But work in this society, class society, it is changed to job. Work means getting money. Most of people love Friday, hate Monday, even rich people, even that secretary that you said. They hate Monday because they go to the job because they have to. They don't like it, they have to, because it has a good money. You make money, you have to work. In communist society or socialist society, it's not the case. You go to work because you like it, because the thing that you get from the society has nothing to do with what you do. You cut that relation. If you cut that relation, it doesn't mean that you don't do anything. You sit like a potato in your couch and watch television all the time. No, you don't do that. You go and do the things that you like. And one of those things that you like is creating something, making something out of nowhere. Nobody has that experience. You did it. Like having a good painting, like having a good poet, a good writing, a good whatever in art. But it's not the art, everything. You create something that helps, say, that sort of people in the society that never anybody did that before. You have a passion for your work. It is your creativity. It's not your job. Has nothing to do what you get from society. It has everything to do what you give to the society. And people, in giving to the society, helping human being, is a very good factor. Maybe the main reason for being happy. That thing we deprived of, because work is our job, because we have to work. That's why we hate Friday. We like Monday. In socialist society, everybody hates Monday and hates Friday and loves Monday, if you like.
Hamid Taqvaee, thank you so much.
Thank you.
This was Think Up on the fundamentals of worker communism and the fundamental ideas of the Worker Communist Party of Iran. Until next time, goodbye.